Good morning. Good morning. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here today. Hi, Emma. My granddaughter, Emma, is sitting in the front row today. She said, well, I'm not going to fall asleep on your preaching this time. I want to welcome everyone who's watching. My name is Pablo. I'm one of the associate pastors here. Privileged to serve here at Ignite Church, located at 1100 McCarter Highway in downtown Newark. If you want to watch other sermons and see what's going on here at Ignite, you could go on to ignitechurchonline.com. Amen? Amen. We have a lot of good stuff, right? So let's get right into it. Right? We have this. The theme of this month is history, his story, the history of his story, right? We get it? That was pretty cool, right? That was good. So, the title today is, allow me to reintroduce myself. Yes, and this is a public service announcement. And some of y'all know what I'm talking about. Let's give it up for Jay-Z, yeah. I was going to play the song, but I was busy. So, speaking of history, right, I want to go into a little history of who I am, right, of where I came from and how I came about. And I grew up in this amazing, passionate Pentecostal home. Oh yeah, it was awesome. You know, we had the skirts going. Well, I didn't have the skirts going, but we're very, very straight arrow Pentecostal, and it was awesome. It was great. You know, my mom and dad did all kinds of stuff, right? My father, his full-time job, he worked at a mental health center. So he's helping people that were mentally unstable and needed help. And he was also the family pastor, right? So imagine this home. He was an usher, he was a deacon, he was a Sunday school teacher, he was a board member, he was a men's ministry director of missionary missions, supporting missionaries overseas. And he was always the church shuttle driver as well, right? Everybody know the guagua? Yeah. La guagua está afuera, avanza! I had to preach today. That was Dad. And he always dragged me to pick up the people in the church. And I don't understand. It was the same time every Sunday. And they were late every time. Same lady. All right, we got to matrix that. So he was also the Brooklyn men's director for the council, right? So the borough of Brooklyn. And he was the bishop of Queens and Long Island for the church council, overseeing church operations. And he taught Bible Institute, and he was a pastor, and Mom worked in women's ministry and children's ministry. So you guys get it, right? We were saturated with God everywhere in that house. You know, Fridays, after church, we go to the bakery, get some coffee with butter and bread, right? That was just it all the time. And then everybody goes to Pablo's house. We all went to my dad's house. And I was exposed to so many areas of ministry and God's impact in people's lives. And the services were spirit-filled. Holy Ghost parties. You ready for this? Oh, yeah. And we used to have these services. El Espíritu Santo cayó. El Espíritu Santo cayó. El Espíritu Santo cayó. Cayó. El Espíritu Santo cayó. El Espíritu Santo cayó. El Espíritu Santo cayó. Yo voy alabando, glorificando. Yo voy alabando, glorificando. Y tú también alaba al Señor. Y tú también alaba al Señor. El Espíritu Santo cayó. El Espíritu Santo cayó. El Espíritu Santo cayó, 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 cayó. ¡Woo! ¡Aleluya! ¡Recibe! Yes, right? Woo! And that went on for like 2.5 hours. And that was just worship. And then we had to preach for 1.5 hours. Woo, thank God that bakery was a 24-hour bakery, right? Woo, thank you guys. Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, so the ladies used to come out of church with their heels broken, hair all over the place, just trying to make sense of stuff. Stockings ripped. Everybody knows the common beige stockings that the damas wore, right? It was parties. Holy Ghost parties every Sunday. And those services went like for days, felt like. So I invited a few friends to church on Sundays. I never saw them after that. I was kidnapped, bro. I can't do church for 10, 12 hours. I'm like, what do you mean? That's normal. I could just imagine. Like, what you do at 10 o'clock at night? I'm in church. We go to bed at 10 o'clock. I remember going to the bakery at 10 o'clock. Yeah, maybe that's why my grades were suffering a little bit. I couldn't explain that to my teachers. It's like, what happened? Teacher, you don't know the Holy Spirit just came down on that plane. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. It turned into a vigilia on a Sunday. I don't know. I just came from, you see, I still got my suit on, teacher. It was just crazy. The vigilias was a whole different thing. That was just like, how do you just worship for like 6 hours? It just went. I don't know. It was like in a trance, but felt the presence of God, right? But you know, I knew the presence of God. I knew of the I am, because I saw it everywhere. I knew of his healing power. You know, I saw this guy's foot just grow right in front of my face. Like he was limping on his life. This evangelist came and prayed for him, and I saw the heels come together. And it wasn't a trick, because I knew the guy. They're like, bro, you've been faking that for years. But and I saw that happen, and miracles happening. I knew of his healing power. I knew of the life-changing impact in the lives of people. People used to see my dad and my mom in the street, and they're like, God bless you, thank you. You changed my life. There were guys like, you know, he used to do Sunday school in the projects. They used to give him a room in the lobby, and he used to just teach kids, right? That was awesome. The resurrection power, people being healed from cancer and not being able to speak, and people speaking. I knew of his power. I knew of him, but I didn't know him. Right? We know of people, but we don't know them. So who's in the news right now? They're always in the news. Let's talk about, okay, maybe Kanye, right? Let's pick Kanye. Like, everybody knows Kanye, right? Or know of him. But do you know him? Like, if you came to, hey, Pablo, can you tell Kanye? I don't know him. I know of him, but I don't know him. And this is where I want to get to. That we know of Christ. We know his history, right? We know Christmas, right? Christmas. We confuse him with Santa Claus sometimes. But Christmas, yes, gifts, and awesome. The three kings came and gave gifts. But it's about Jesus dying on the cross, right? No, I'm sorry. It's about, I don't know about him either. It's about him being born. Easter is about Jesus dying on the cross, right? So we know about Easter. We know about What's going on here? I thought they were taking pictures of me. I was gonna be like, bro, you gotta come on the other side. It's not my good side back there. Get it right, Kobe, come on. So we'll just shut him off, I guess. Pastor's doing this thing. He's always running all over the place. So we know the history of Christ. We know the history of Christmas. We know the history of Easter. But that's all we know. That's all we know. But we don't know him personally. So I kind of hear this title, allow me to reintroduce myself. I am the I am. Because we kind of been introduced to Christ. We kind of been introduced to the King. But I feel like maybe I got off on the wrong foot. Like, how would me, a person that is home was just filled with the presence of God all the time and working and pastoring and helping people and Sunday school and Bible studies, how would I not know him? So in Matthew 16:15 it says, but you, who do you say that I am? Jesus asked the disciples, who do you say that I am? So I'm asking you today, who do you say that he is? So for a long time, you know who he was to me? He was my father's Jesus, right? He was my mother's Jesus. I followed along because I knew of him. I followed along. You know, there's 6 of us in the house. I'm the eldest of 6. There's 4 girls, 2 boys. And we all kind of knew of him. We all know how to dress. We knew how to speak. We knew how to walk. We knew how to do it. But it was my brother's Jesus, even though his Jesus was not what I thought it was. But I just followed the lingo because it's what we were supposed to do. My pastor's Jesus, when my pastor got up there and spoke, en el nombre de Jesús, vamos a recibir poder de Dios. That was his Jesus. I followed that Jesus. But when you don't know someone, when you just know of him or of a person, you don't have that relationship. So what began to happen, I began to kind of like stray away from the person that I thought I knew. It wasn't enough for me. You think about a relationship, and if I know my wife, if I know of my wife, but I don't know her, how long is that going to last, right? So this is where I was. I was in a place where I knew of him. I didn't know him, so now I started getting different interests of things that I began to know for real, you know? And it's funny because, you know, the enemy takes advantage of that gap in the relationship. He's like, hey, you want to get to know somebody? You can know me. Right? So I began to stray away. That wasn't important to me anymore. The services, it was fine, but it was just like, all right, I have my time. You know, so I get married, I leave the house, and now I'm free. I'm not living under my dad's roof anymore. You know, I didn't miss the bread and coffee at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday after church. But it wasn't interesting anymore. I didn't care for it. So I began to know other things. I began to embrace other things. And after several years of just kind of just wandering, you guys have heard the testimony, right? So I'm going to just do it quickly just to add some character to what I'm trying to say. So after years go by, I feel like there were times that the Lord was saying, allow me to reintroduce myself, right? Because we kind of know of him, but we don't know him, right? You kind of know me, but let me reintroduce myself. So I'm sitting in a church, and that's the year that my daughter was 3 years old, and so I wanted to take her buy toys, and she didn't want to buy toys. She wanted to go to church, right? And I said, no, I don't want to go to church. But I remember I made a promise to God to say, hey, you got to raise your child in the ways of the Lord. And so, okay, I was like, okay, you go to mom's and dad's church, because being that they were so involved in the council and everything, after a while, I went with them a lot. And I got to meet people, and now they're seeing this person that is no longer in it anymore. I was embarrassed because I wasn't holy anymore. I wasn't speaking the way I used to speak. I wasn't dressing and looking how I was supposed to look. So I was embarrassed. I was like, okay, you stay over there. I'm going to go to another church. I went to another church, and I see all the families. I'm like, wow, this is cool. Like, I want to know this now. I want to know what this is about. I see all these little families coming to church on Sunday with their kids. That's awesome. That's nice. I want that, but I'm not ready. I'm not ready for it. I can't. I'm not ready for it. So a friend of mine tells me, hey, Pablo, come, let's pray. So, I grew up in church. I know how it works. The faster I go up there and they pray for me, the faster he will leave me alone. Right? So let's go. Let's go. I go. They pray for me. Boom, I'm done. I come back to my seat. But I'm looking at the church, and I'm looking at the families, and I'm looking at the kids, and I'm looking at the presence of God. And I'm like, this is cool. I wish my life is not peaceful anymore like this. I want this. And so Eric comes back. Eric Padilla, God bless you, brother. He was awesome. Comes back to me and says, Pablo, God's not finished with you. And I'm like, come on, bro. Like, just be finished. And then he's talking, and I'm just hearing, the teacher from Charlie Brown, just like the wah 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 wah. And so while he's talking, and I'm just like, Lord, I do want this, but I'm not ready. I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this. And then I says, I'm not ready. So the wah wah stopped, and I begin to understand what he's saying. He says, I got one more thing to tell you. If you're waiting to be ready, you're not going to be ready, right? This is what he tells me. This stops me in my tracks, because now I'm freaking out a little bit, because I was talking to God in my mind, right, in my heart, like for real, talking to him, like prayer. Guys, prayer is not getting on your knees all the time. It's just communicating with God. So I'm communicating. I'm praying to him. I don't even know that, right? Because I don't know him like that. I knew of him in a different way, but I don't know him that he can speak to me while I'm thinking about something. And when he says, if you're waiting to be ready, you're never going to be ready. And that is the moment that I had my first encounter with the person that I knew of, with the God that I knew of, who came to knock on my heart. He knew me by name. So we talked about Kanye, right? We don't ever expect that. He's going to come to your house, call you by name, like, hey, what you doing today? I'll be like, whatever you want to do, bro. So you don't expect that. You don't expect people that you know of to come to you and knock on your door. So I felt like God. I knew God. I knew of him. I knew what he did, but I didn't know him. I didn't know he knew my name. I didn't know that he would come to me, knock on my door of my heart and say, hey, if you're waiting to be ready, you're never going to be ready. Allow me to reintroduce myself. That was the moment. And then, moments throughout my life, the Lord began to introduce himself again. John 6:35 says, Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. Come every day to me and you will never be hungry. Believe in me and you will never be thirsty. So that hunger that I have for a peaceful life, that thirst that I have for joy, began to be filled. I began to know him. So there were moments throughout my life that he kept saying, allow me to reintroduce myself. Have you ever been there? Have you ever been to a place where all of a sudden things are upside down and the person that you knew, that sometimes we forget how amazing he is, has to reintroduce himself again? So my son was 3 years old when this happened, another testimony. That's my son right there, Aaron. Hey, I love you, man. He's 19 years old now. I know you wouldn't think a guy that looks like me would have a 19-year-old, right? It's true. I have a 19-year-old. Okay, I feel better now. So he's 3 years old, right? And there was a time that I was I was a youth pastor, and I was ministering to these youth, and it was from the youth from back in the day when we used to go to the bakery. It was different. These kids were wilding out a little bit. It was like, oh, I don't know how to manage kids like that, how to minister to kids like this. And I was praying, and I was just, again, not that prayer to get on your knees, but just that praying in my mind. I'm like, so we went to a bowling alley, and we had a bowling event, and some girls talked to me about, she's going to get into a gang, and she got to beat somebody up, and then somebody else over here talking about all kinds of crap. And I'm like, whoo, wait, let's go back. So I'm like, Lord, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And my son, 3 years, was like, Daddy, papi, dada. I'm like, what's up, bambino? I need to go to the bathroom. I'm like, all right, let's go to the bathroom. So he's going there, and he wants to use the stall by himself. I'm like, all right, but let me help you. No, I want to do it alone. I'm like, okay, go inside. I'm right outside the store. You go ahead, do what you got to do. So I'm standing there, and I'm like, Lord, what am I going to do with these kids? Help me. And then this little 3-year-old says, Dad, what? You got to pray. I'm like, okay, what? You got to pray, and when you pray, God is going to give you power. And I said, wait a minute. Say, what? What you saying? Are you in there in the store? I mean, you reading something somewhere? I mean, he's 3 years old. Maybe he was reading already. I don't know. No, Dad, you got to pray. And when you pray, you're going to have power. So I start to bawl. I'm bawling. I'm like, oh, my God, Lord, pray, I get power. How he's doing? Okay. So we go, I wash my face, we do the event, and then I go home, and in the morning, I'm not doubtful, right? I'm not doubting, but I'm just like, wait a minute, he's 3 years old. What does he know about praying? And then when you pray, you get, like, he don't know that. He must have heard that somewhere. Now, Lord, I'm not doubting you. I'm just wondering. So next morning, I'm like, hey, Aaron, come here, son. Come on over. Sit on your daddy's lap. So you know that thing you told me yesterday? Yeah, I thought you forgot. Yeah, like what did you tell me yesterday? I told you that you need to pray, and when you pray, God is going to give you power. I'm like, he said it again. Like, it's in there. I'm like, okay. Like, were you watching TV? Did you hear a preacher? Did somebody say, like, who told you this? He stands there for a second, and he says, God told me. Allow me to reintroduce myself. He's 3 years old, man. Like, you can't deny that. And so, John 15:5, I am the sprouting vine and you are my branches. As you live in union with me as your source, fruitfulness will stream from within you. But when you live separated from me, you're powerless. He's telling me, this is what a 3-year-old was telling me. Right? When you pray, you get power. And these moments that God comes to me, and I know his history, and I'm like, this is not the Jesus that I thought I was in a manger, right? He's too big for that. This is not the Jesus that hung on the cross to me. He wants to talk to me, to me. He wants to speak to me. So there were moments that the Lord was saying, allow me to reintroduce myself. A moment when I couldn't pay my rent. Yeah, it happens. A lot of us go through that. And there was nowhere. And I've heard this testimony from people all the time. You know, I couldn't get it. I just didn't have it. I called my landlord. I was like, hey, landlord, can I give you double next month? Nah, sorry. It ain't going to work that way. I'm like, Lord, I don't know what I'm going to do. My pastor called me. He says, I need to talk to you for a second. And he called me like late. It was like 9 o'clock. I'm going to come to your house. I got to come see you. That was serious. I was like, oh, snap. He killed somebody. Where are we going to bury the body? So I'll get my shovels ready while he was on his way. So he comes over, and he says, I want to talk to you. I'm like, what's up? Here's this piece of paper. Give me a piece of paper, and he leaves. I'm like, what is this? I open it up, and there's a check for the amount of the rent. I'm like, well, wait a minute. How you know this? He's like, no, I've just been feeling in my heart for weeks to give this to you. I'm like, you waited that long? Like bro, I'm late for my rent, man. Weeks? You got to listen to God's voice, and when God talks to you, you got to do it quick. Making me go through this. What's the matter with you? And so, there you go again. Allow me to reintroduce myself. Like, we forget. Like, how can I not stand up and say, hey, you know what? I know God is going to make it. I know he's going to work it out. He brought me here. He's not going to leave me here. Sounds good, right? But when we don't know him like that, we start to question. I had a brain tumor. Went to the doctors. They said, man, you got a little tumor in your pituitary gland. And that was just all kinds of stuff going on, right? And then we had to take medication and all this crazy stuff, and I felt like a guinea pig in a science lab and doing all these things, brain scan. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to go again. It started acting up again. It started festering in there, getting these headaches and whatever. And I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's do it. Lord, it's in your hands. I sit down with the doctor, and he said, listen, man, I don't know what happened, but it like shrunk. I'm like, what do you mean it shrunk? Yep, it's gone. It's dry. It's dead. Allow me to reintroduce myself. I'm like, whoa. All right, Lord. We good. My marriage was failing. And things were just going awry. My wife would pray hard every day for us. And all of a sudden, there was a shift. All of a sudden, this new love just erupted from our hearts. See, because we didn't think it was going to work. But there he goes again. Allow me to reintroduce myself. Yep, I could bring to life what's dead. My wife, for a long time, couldn't have any children. It was about 7 years. My daughter and my son are 7 years apart, and we did all kinds of things. We had to go get some shots, and we had to do all kinds of stuff, and she just couldn't have kids. And all of a sudden, we go to the doctor, and, she tells me she's late. I'm like, but Mama, you always late. Come on, hurry up, speed it up. No, I'm late. I'm like, oh, snap. Boom, there goes my bambino. 7 years later, right? 7 years later, he says, allow me to reintroduce myself. This is crazy, right? Because we know of him. We know stories of him. We know things of him, but he wants you to know him, not of him. He wants to have a relationship with you. For a long time, Jesus, God, was my father. My elders said who he was. not my own relationship with him. Allow me to reintroduce myself, right? Jesus said in John 8:12, I am the light of the world. He's telling us who he is. Allow me to reintroduce myself. John 10:11, I am the good shepherd. Allow me to reintroduce myself. John 11:25, I am the resurrection. John 14:6, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. Yes, you are, Lord. Yes, you are. John 8:58, before Abraham was born, I am. And I was telling Pastor today, I love how he says, before Abraham was born, I was. It's just crazy how he used the past as the present. I am. I just am. What are you, Lord? I am. Whatever it is that you need, I am. Strength, I am. Love, I am. Peace, I am. Joy, I am. Healing, I am. Pick it. Pick one. I am. That's like getting the right answer every time. What's the answer to the question? Pick any of them. It's right. I am. So today, the Lord is asking, right? In Matthew 16:15, but you, who do you say I am? Right now in this region of Philippi that he was in, this region of the world that he was in, there was a lot of paganism. There was a lot of worshiping other gods. There were gods etched in stone where he was, right? Where he can worship anything there. All different types of gods. And I find it interesting that he chooses that place of all of these gods that you can serve. And he says, who do you say I am? You know? Because sometimes, you know, our doctors are our gods. Because whatever they say goes, right? Sometimes our circumstances, sometimes Instagram or Facebook, like if we don't get enough likes, it makes us feel bad. And that's a real thing. So in the middle of all those gods and all those things, he says, who do you say I am? Not who does your father or your mother or your sister or your brother or Pastor George or Pastor Pablo, Pastor Ed, Facebook, Instagram, Christmas, Easter, the world. He wants to know, who do you say? What have I done? What have I shown you in your life? Where did I bring you out from? Who do you say I am? Those moments that you had your back to the wall and you thought nothing was going to come through, but I walk in and I am the answer. I am the healing. I'm like, Lord, man. You know, crazy thing is that when my son was born, or was going to be born, like we didn't know the sex yet. We just said, hey, she's pregnant. We're very happy. And my crazy Pentecostal pastor, like, I know. Oh, I know. Not only that, he's going to be a boy. I'm like, how you? You don't know. Like that, I'm happy with whatever. It's a girl, boy. No. It's going to be a boy. So he knows somebody that I don't. He knew God like I didn't know him. He said, because I prayed, son. I prayed. And I know who I'm praying to. I know who he is. But I have to know him for me. Let me introduce you to the God that so loved the world that he gave his only son For whoever believes will not perish, but have everlasting life. Thank you, Lord. He is our King. He's our Savior. We got the volume in the back for the computer.
He's the King of the ages. He's the King of heaven. He's the King of glory. He's the King of kings. And he's the Lord of lords. That's my King. I wonder, do you know him? My King is a sovereign King. No means of measure can define his limitless love. He's enduringly strong. He's entirely sincere. He's eternally steadfast. He's immortally graceful. He's imperially powerful. He's impartially merciful. Do you know him? He's the greatest phenomenon that has ever crossed the horizon of this world. He's God's Son. He's a sinner's Savior. He's the centerpiece of civilization. He's unparalleled. He's unprecedented. He is the loftiest idea in literature. He's the highest personality in philosophy. He's the fundamental doctrine of true theology. He's the only one qualified to be an all-sufficient Savior. I wonder if you know him today. He supplies strength for the weak. He's available for the tempted and the tried. He sympathizes and he saves. He strengthens and sustains. He guards and he guides. He heals the sick. He cleanses the lepers. He forgives sinners. He discharges debtors. He delivers the captives. He defends the feeble. He blesses the young. He serves the unfortunate. He regards the aged. He rewards the diligent. And he beautifies the meek. I wonder if you know him. He's the key to knowledge. He's the wellspring of wisdom. He's the doorway of deliverance. He's the pathway of peace. He's the roadway of righteousness. He's the highway of holiness. He's the gateway of glory. Do you know him? Well, his life is matchless. His goodness is limitless. His mercy is everlasting. His love never changes. His word is enough. His grace is sufficient. His reign is righteous. And his yoke is easy. And his burden is light. I wish I could describe him to you. He's indescribable. He's incomprehensible. He's invincible. He's irresistible. Well, you can't get him out of your mind. You can't get him off of your hand. You can't outlive him, and you can't live without him. Well, the Pharisees couldn't stand him, but they found out they couldn't stop him. Pilate couldn't find any fault in him. Herod couldn't kill him. Death couldn't handle him, and the grave couldn't hold him. Yeah! That's my King. That's my King.
Yours
Come on.
is the kingdom.
Yes.
Yours is the power. Yours
Yes, Lord.
is the glory.
Do you know him? Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Lord, I want to know you, Father God. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Yes, we honor you, Lord. Yours
is the power.
Yes, we honor you, God. Yes, 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 yes.
Yours is the kingdom. Yours
Yes,
is
Lord.
the power.
Yes, Lord.
Yours
I know him. I came to a place in my life where all I wanted to do was know him, to get near him, to get close to him. Because as I allowed him to reintroduce himself to me, my heart was filled with his joy. And as many times as he had to do it, he was all right with it. He continued to come alongside me. I know there are moments that we feel that we're not close to him. I feel there's moments that we feel so far away from him. You could be sitting there right now and say, there's nothing here. We're just too far away, but allow me to reintroduce you to the one who loved you so much that he hung on a cross. He went that far. He's not gonna leave you alone, because his word says that he will never leave me. He will never forsake me. If this morning, right, you feel you just don't know him anymore, listen, I'm not gonna put you in the spot. I'm not gonna tell you to come on up here. I'm not gonna tell you to raise your hands, but in your heart, you can just call out to him. He remembers who you are. Although the conversation may not have happened for a long time, he hasn't forgotten. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Father God, right now, I wanna introduce to those who feel that they don't know you anymore, Father God. Lord, I want you to touch their hearts right now, Father God, and let them know that you're there for them, Father God, and let them know that you are the light, you are their strength, you are their hope. Lord, I pray right now that you touch their hearts. I pray right now that you make them feel the anointing, make them feel the warmness of your love, Father God. And Lord, right now I want to remind them that you have not gone too far that he don't know who you are. You haven't gone too far that he don't know your name. He don't know this. He's been watching all along. He's been there all along. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, Lord. We worship you, Lord. Yes, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, Lord. Now, if this is your first time hearing of him in this way, if this is your first time knowing that he is there right by your side and you want to get to know him, I want you to repeat after me. Father God, thank you for sending your son to die for me on the cross. I surrender my heart to you. I surrender my life to you, Lord. And I want to get to know you. In Jesus' name, amen. So this will be the beginning of your journey of knowing not just of him, but knowing him, knowing who he is. Live a life of celebration and joy, coming before him, knowing that he's going to get you through. Amen. God bless you. God keep you.
Because he picked me up, he turned me around.
So glad you can join us. My name is George Caban. I am the senior pastor here at Ignite Church. And if you was impacted this morning by the message and want to take your relationship with God to another level, I want to give you 3 quick steps that you can apply right now. Number 1, prayer. You have the ability to commune with God. Start your praying with God. It starts right in your house. It starts wherever you're at. Number 2, come visit us. We would love to meet you in person and you get to see other community of believers. It's something awesome and the synergy is crazy when you're in one mind and one language. And so experience what it looks like to be in person. And number 3, join Growth Track. What is Growth Track, George? Okay, Growth Track is where you get to hang out with me for an hour and I get to share the heart of the church, how we started, where we're going, what God is doing, and how you could be part of what God is doing. And so I'm so excited to meet you. Can't wait to see you. Be blessed.